he's going to use people.
Footage,
Right, he's going to use his people to do it.
His people, the Israelites, to do it. And let me say this to you, sister. The problem with our people is that we're on a love trip. I'm talking about our nation as a whole. I don't care what anybody says. Our nation, our people as a whole, on a love trip. We're on a let's love everybody and let's forgive and forget they've been brainwashed through religion. You got to realize our enemies are these white people. These are our enemies.
But
Not
how can
only
you
them, but
say
all
you're on
nations.
a love? How can you say you're
I said,
on a love?
I'm speaking about our nation in general. The
Okay.
people are lost. Like this brother here.
Now,
He doesn't know. He doesn't even realize when he goes back and checks out history and he checks out the lynchings and the tar and feathers and the killings that your people have perpetrated. He wasn't the first one. He's not the only one.
Okay,
It's happened on a mass scale. And if he doesn't know, and I'm saying,
Yasha, I want to ask you, sincerely want to ask you a question, okay?
Go ahead.
I'm a Jew. And 6 million of my
You say
people...
you're a Jew, but you're not a Jew. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm a Jew, all right? I feel I'm a Jew. Let's not argue about it for the moment. Let's just talk, the two of us, okay?
Let's go.
Now, 6 million of my people went to ovens, into camps, and
You
never
say
came
6
out.
million.
I said.
There's people that dispute that.
That's
That's a
true.
whole lot.
That's
Okay.
true. But let's not even argue that for the moment.
Okay.
Let me finish my point, because you're not being entirely fair to me.
Okay, I'm gonna let you
I'll let
speak
you
now.
finish your point, right? Show me some respect. Now, I believe that these people were wrong. These Nazis were wrong. But I have never advocated that I go to Germany and I kill every single German in Germany because of what the Nazis did. And I'm asking you why you think that we should all die or we should all be enslaved for the terrible things. No one's saying that they didn't happen to you. And I think that it is a disgrace and a blight on history and a blight on all of us that this was done to you. But I don't advocate that. So I don't get what you want. I don't understand why you want that for us when I don't want that from the German people.
Let me say this. Let's talk about justice. In order, you white people always say you're justice. You're about justice. In order for you to actually say that you're a just people, the first thing that you have to do is be just to the people you've been unjust to.
That's right.
Okay? You haven't done that. You've been unjust to the North American Indian. Now you saying we're sorry we did this, we're sorry we took your land, we're sorry we massacred you. Why don't we give you our land back? That would make you a just people. Okay, you brought the Negroes in slavery. In order for you to be just, you'd have to turn around and say, look, we enslaved you, we did wrong. Here,
Right.
enslave us.
Right.
You're not just.
And let me add to that. Abraham Lincoln, when he
Okay,
signed
will you comment? Will you just deal with my remark? Well, I'm not going to Germany and say enslave and kill
Hitler
all
was a
those people.
so-called Jew, so I don't know what the whole problem is all about anyway.
What was
Hitler
that?
was a so-called Jew. Go check it out.
Well,
His name
I
was
think you got a
Adolf
real...
Hitler. Look it up.
Hitler was a so-called Jew.
Hey, look it up.
And a lot of scholars know that.
Look it up in the encyclopedia.
So it was Hitler. And I have no problem with white people killing white people.
I think so.
I have no problem with white people killing white people.
Do you know that Jesus was a Jew?
And he was black.
He was black.
No, he wasn't
He was
black.
black. Yes, he was.
I was in
Israelites were
Israel.
black.
I got this.
I don't care what you got. You
I
got our
don't
whole
care,
land.
and I know more about Israel now than all my life. I was into the church and how they took me in. Believe me, as a Jew, and I took off my shoes and I walked on their carpet.
But you're not a Jew.
Who wasn't a Jew? Me?
You're not a Jew.
I'm a real Jew.
Can I
No,
can
you
I
And
can't.
tell you?
I'll tell you,
You better get a book by Arthur Coulson.
I know more about the
Church.
Jewish Bible
He
than
tells
you do, and
he
the
tells you about
Torah.
you white people that
You
are
know,
imposters.
when
That's
there
one of
was
your
a
Jewish
war,
scholars.
my dear little boy.
I'm not a boy. I'm not your boy. But I tell you what, you are my slave. I claim you this day. In the kingdom, I'm going to whip your back every day
There
for that
was
remark.
bloodshed on
In
Yom
the kingdom, I'm
Kippur.
going to whip your back
In
every day
6
for that
days, the
remark.
goddamn war was finished.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. You're
Really,
going to
I'd
whip
like-
her every day for what?
Every day for that statement. she
What
made.
statement?
I claim her as my slave. In slavery, in the kingdom. I'm
You're
gonna
be a
whip-
slave.
And let's get this straight. You white people, you're the devil, and you were given to us. You're our brothers, our wicked brothers, by the way. You were given to us by the Heavenly Father before we were
I'm
born.
going to tell you
You
something.
go back and read the story of Jacob and
don't
Esau.
worry
You
about
white
it.
people are
I'm
Esau.
not
You're the
because she
Edomites.
doesn't know what they
You're
were
a
saying.
slave running around on the
I'm
loose.
going to tell you
Eat 'em.
something.
Eat 'em.
Passover is coming. And believe me, you will be like a little lamb on the floor, and you will apologize because Hashem is coming. You know what Hashem
Yeah,
is?
that's the name. That's the name. Hashem is the name.
What
you know
is
about
Hashem?
that. Hashem, that's Yahweh. You know, Yahweh, that's the
It's
name
the
of the Lord.
Messiah.
He said
That's the
Hashem.
All right,
That's the
let's
Messiah.
not get into
He came 2,000 years ago and he's coming back. And he's black.
On earth.
And Yahweh
Peace on
Shai,
earth
whom you say is
for
Christ, is coming to
everybody.
put
No
you in
peace.
slavery.
Let me ask you to sit down now.
Yeah.
These
All right,
people.
wait. Let
You
me.
get ready. Go home.
Shirley, can I make a
I
brief
want to
comment?
talk about
These
something.
people here
Yes.
there is absolutely no difference between them and the neo-Nazis
You're right.
in the United States.
I thought
These people have the exact same beliefs as the
you
most
guys were
violent
different.
neo-Nazi
Yeah,
white
you're not. You're
supremacist
the
group
same.
in the United States and
There's
Canada.
There's a
There is
difference.
absolutely no
We're
difference
preaching the
between
Bible.
you.
We're preaching the Bible.
But I will make one
We're
prediction.
telling you the God.
I will make one
Okay,
prediction.
Ryan, hold on.
I will make one prediction.
All right, I
I'll
want to
make one
talk.
prediction.
Meyer?
That before you ever lift up one finger to a Jew, your hand will be smashed off.
Oh, it's pretty.
That's a lie. First of all, you're not a Jew. But our hands are going to be lifted up against our own people.
Shirley.
Our hands are going to be lifted up against our own
They're
people.
lifted up against
The
you.
ones that link up with you white people, the ones that marry you white people, the ones that get mixed up in this society, they don't realize you're our enemy. This is for you too. For our people out there, you're going to be put to death. You're going to be put to
There's going to
death.
be a race. Bottom line,
There's going to be a major race war.
A major
all
race
throughout
war.
this world, not just this country, but all throughout this
I
world.
want to talk about something that happened in Billings, Montana. It was an incredible thing, and I think we should all calm down and listen to this for a minute. That's when the Klan tried to take over the town. There are 82,000 people in Billings. There's only 100 Jewish families, and the KKK made death threats against the Jews and against people who they thought were Jew lovers. They desecrated the cemetery. They threatened to blow up the synagogue. And then the most extraordinary thing happened. Chief Wayne Inman decided that it was time for his town to fight back. He joins us with Tammy Schnitzer, who's the head of the Jewish family. What's the name of your organization? Tammy?
I'm with an organization called MatchCo, and I'm also with the Billings Coalition for Human Rights.
All right. The two of you are here to talk about what's happening in Billings. I think we should all sit back and listen to this, because I think it's a remarkable story. Chief, you had the KKK there, 100 Jewish families, 100 Jewish people, not too many, and they decided that they wanted those people out. What did you do?
Well, about a year ago, they started to target the Jewish community with flyers, and then it progressed into vandalism and harassment and intimidation. They wanted the Jewish families to leave the city. And in fact, they had a number of death threats against the families. We decided as a community, and it really isn't me, it's really the whole community, this kind of activity was not acceptable. And how could this Klan possibly harass and intimidate 82,000 people? So we threw our arms around the Jewish community and said, no, you can't do it here. If you harass one, you in fact harass all of us.
Tell us how you did it.
What we had to do is first get the community out of denial, saying they don't exist. Well, about the time that they tossed the cinder block through the Schnitzer family window,
That's
the
your
community
family,
woke up.
Tammy.
That's Tammy's house. The community said, this is an outrage, and now we understand what you've been talking about. So the whole community published, actually the Billings Gazette published a full-page menorah.
Do you know, let me just stop you there, Chief, because, you know, a menorah is like a candelabra. You've got a picture of one for us there. And what it is, it's part of a Jewish ritual that takes place on a holiday called Hanukkah, which is the Festival of Lights. And what did you do with it?
The local newspaper published this menorah, and the community urged everyone to put this menorah in their window. In fact, rather than 48 menorahs, they became really several thousand menorahs, saying we support our Jewish friends.
And all of these windows, in these thousands and thousands of windows, there were menorahs. And it was your town's way of saying, we fight racism by sticking together with the people who you are against. Am I right?
That's true, and there were two waves of incidents. After our
Chief, let me
friends,
interrupt for a moment.
Sure.
Then I want to get Tammy in on this conversation. Let me go to a break, and we'll come back. We'll talk to you some more. They fight racism. Well, a lot of people on our panels, they say you use violence. But Chief Inman, I think what you did, what the town of Billings, Montana did, is one of the most wonderful ways I've ever heard of fighting violence. The Klan came in, decided the 100 Jewish families that lived in Billings, Montana should get out, and you came up with a method. You used the town to fight racism, but not an ounce of blood was spilled, not a gun was shot. It was remarkable. You were telling the story. The Klan decided they should leave. And just show us again the picture of the menorah. Everyone just about in town, a little higher there. Everyone in town put one of these, was it in their window? So you couldn't tell the Jews from the non-Jews, right?
See, that was the problem. They were in businesses, they were in the churches, and they were in family homes. And the first time that the menorahs went in the windows, some of the families got rocks to their windows and phone calls the next day saying, because you're a Jew lover, this is what happened. That outraged the community even more, and thousands more went up in the windows.
And when that happened, how did the Klan respond?
Well, the Klan didn't have a formula for a community response. They walk into a community and literally try to harass and intimidate, and nobody says anything. This community said something. They didn't know exactly what to do. I think at this point we have stalled their activities.
All right, Tammy, you got a brick thrown through your window, and your family was very frightened by what the Klan was doing.
Right. We've had a history of problems within our Jewish community, and actually our Jewish community consists of 48 families, so it's extremely small. And my family and I have had problems for probably about the last 4 years. I truly believe that we've had problems before then, but I didn't take them as seriously because I didn't have children at that particular time to protect. But early December, we were celebrating Hanukkah, and we placed a Hanukkah menorah in my son's bedroom window. We left our children home with a babysitter and went on to meetings and came back, and there was a cinder block thrown through my son's Hanukkah menorah, and the block hit my son's bed and then hit the floor. It was intentionally done. It was done to intimidate my family at my most vulnerable point, when I was leaving my children home alone with my children, and they did it to a child's room. I did not know how to deal with it at that particular point. We have burglar systems in our home. We have access to guns. But surely there isn't a gun or a burglar system that's going to protect my children from a brick coming through a window. There isn't a gun or there isn't violence out there that's going to allow my child to walk down the street with his head up high, proudly proclaiming that he's Jewish.
In your town, Tammy, when the town got behind this whole thing and decided to fight the Klan by doing this, and you put and thousands of people put the menorah in their windows, and then the Klan couldn't figure out who was Jewish and who wasn't Jewish anymore. What did this do to the town itself?
It brought a sense of brotherhood together. That sense of solidarity that was trying to be obtained certainly was and still is. But more importantly, as a mom trying to raise a child in a community, we felt like we were part of the community. We weren't isolated away from the community at that particular point in time.
Don't you think the people of this town should be proud?
I want them to be recognized for what they've done, and this is a perfect way to do that. We're certainly very proud. Billings needs to be emulated throughout the United States and Canada.
Well, it reminds me of what the great Danish king did. I don't know if you're familiar with the story. When the Nazis wanted to know who were the Jews, and what the Danish king did was everyone there, everyone, every Dane, put a yellow armband on, and then the Nazis didn't know the Jews from the non-Jews. That's what your town did. I got to go to a break. We'll be back with more violence and racism. Just a moment. There have been a lot of historical inaccuracies today, and I don't want to be accused of being historically inaccurate. So I said that the Danish king put an armband around him with a Jewish star, a yellow armband. In fact, he did not, Marla. He put a Star of David on his clothing. It was a remarkable and brave and courageous thing he did, and that they did in Billings, Montana. When you hear that you can actually bring the Klan down with an act like that, Meyer, doesn't it say to you, violence isn't necessary to fight racism and racists?
First of all, let me make one thing clear. In our religion, it says there is a time for peace and there's a time for war. There's a time to use any tactic that you feel will be effective. I admire when they put the Star of David on their chest and identified with the Jews and stopped the Nazis in that way. And certainly in this town, when they put the menorahs up, I admire that, and in fact, I encourage them. But going back to the Holocaust, that this happened in one country, and we lost 6 million Jews, and I had no grandparents as a result. If I was alive at that time, and when the ships were coming here to Canada and to the United States with Jews fleeing the Nazis, and this government and this country would not let them in, and the United States would not let them in, and they sailed back to Germany, I would encourage stronger action to be used if I was alive at that time, and I would not encourage just protests. We would resort to violence because there was no other alternative at that time.
You believe that's the lesson that you have learned from history?
I believe the lesson of the Holocaust is never again. In the ghettos, there were resistance organizations that were formed, and there were Jewish councils, and the Jewish councils fought vigorously against the resistance groups and turned them into the Nazis, to the detriment of the Jewish communities, to the detriment. We owe it to the 6 million to use any means at our disposal. If they are peaceful means, yes, but if they don't achieve our goals of stopping neo-Nazis perpetrating hatred and violence against Jews and other innocents,
and
we will use
and blacks
and black Nazis as well. We will use any means.
Black Nazis?
Any black Nazis. I don't care if I don't care what the color of their skins are. A Nazi is a Nazi.
Are these guys black Nazis?
Yes, they are. They advocate genocide.
First of all, I'd just like to say about this man up here on the panel. I admire you for the ordeal you've gone through and for keeping such an open mind about everything. But I think if everyone could be like you, the world would be a better place. But I also agree with what you said about education. We all came from Winston Churchill School in Scarborough, and we're having on May 3rd what we call our cultural conference. And what it is we're going to have specialists speaking on racism, why it exists, interracial relationships, and we're going to have seminars for the grade 12 and OEC students. And it's things like this, I think, in schools that help everyone. I mean, our school is very multicultural, and we all get along really well. I mean, Julianne's a good friend of mine, and so is Sean, everybody. And I think when high schools promote this, it helps.
Okay, let me ask your friends here. Gentlemen, if you could just stand for me. What do you think about what you've heard today? Violence is the answer to racism. Do you agree?
No, I don't. Only up to a certain extent, I think violence is an answer.
Isn't it interesting that people keep saying that to me? To a certain extent, violence is the answer.
What?
These guys think that to a certain extent, violence is the answer. Meyer thinks to a certain extent, violence is the answer.
No, we know violence.
Alicia thinks the same thing. What extent?
When it's not enough to turn the other cheek anymore.
I've got 4 cheeks.
I'm not turning them down to one of them, you know?
I disagree with that as well. I don't think violence is the answer. And if I just like to make a comment, I think, gentlemen on the end, I think that you made an intelligent comment today, and I respect that. And as the two of you on the side, the two gentlemen in the middle, I'd like to ask you a question. I was just wondering what or who empowered you to tell me who the enemy is. Like, I've seen the films of the beatings and stuff like that. I think that man was the enemy, but I don't think that the white man sitting beside me is my enemy, or the black man sitting sitting in front of me.
I'll tell you who the enemy is. The enemy is not an identifiable group or race of people, but the enemy is a consciousness which has permeated all segments of society. And that's what we have to start dealing with, that sort of consciousness that says we have to oppress one another. The sort of consciousness which says, let me hang on to my oppression because it gives me the right to oppress others. That is the enemy, and that's what we've got to start dealing with.
The Word of God tells us who our enemies are. So-called white man in the Bible.
And let me say this. You're all going to meet the prophets before the system goes down. The same prophets that were back here with Christ are back here today. And they're going to be raised up right before you. And before this system goes down, you're going to...
For a transcript of today's program, call InfoMart at 1-800-663-3607. Shirley's Wardrobe Today, designed by Jones, New York. Available at better stores across Canada and the U.S. Shirley's guests stay at the beautifully restored Royal York Hotel in the heart of downtown Toronto. Transportation for Shirley's guests provided by Bob Bannerman Motors, Toronto's Jeep specialists for 33 years. Catering for Shirley's guests and studio audiences provided by KFC.